Okay, so let's take a look at performance-based questions. Performance-based questions, these are exam items designed to test a candidate's ability to solve problems in real-world settings. And they are delivered as either simulations or within a virtual environment. So it will either simulate a particular tool, a firewall, it can be a network uh, diagram, or even a terminal. In a virtual environment, we have virtual machines or systems which are running on select operating systems. So today we want to start with the performance-based questions on the COMPTIA Security Plus certification exam, version SY0701. So the first performance-based question which we are going to tackle is a performance-based question on security control and framework types. Security control and framework types. So that is what where we are going to start. Okay. Now this is our performance-based question. So let me try to make my screen quite big. Yeah. So let's start with this scenario. Reading through this scenario. So, as a security consultant for a newly launched information technology company, you have assisted in the security planning process to ensure the best security controls are in place. However, an organization cannot realistically plan for every situation. So, processes and procedures must be fluid and adjusted as security issues arise. With all things considered, the company has asked you to extend your consulting work as the initial planning process to assist with any security issues that arise in the first few months of business. You will also help select security controls to resolve any such issues. Okay, so we are going to help this organization to select a few security controls to resolve issues that might arise. So here we have three scenarios, scenario 1, 2, and 3. Let's start with scenario 1. So scenario 1, and this is our IT admin. So this is what the IT admin has to say. That last attack did some real damage. We need to add systems that identify malicious activity on our network immediately. So remember, when we are looking at security controls, we have various security control categories, and also we have various functional type security controls. So if you look at categories here, we have managerial, operational, physical, and technical. And functional type, we have compensating controls, corrective controls, detective, deterrent, directive, and preventive. Okay. So operational, let's start with this scenario. So I hope we all know what all these controls are. So technical, physical, operational, and also managerial. So in this particular case, the last attack did some real damage. And they need to add systems that identify malicious activity on their network immediately. Okay. So we are going to select a security control remediation that will be needed to address this issue. So if their main objective is to identify malicious activity on their network immediately. Okay. So we are going to select from managerial, operational, physical, and technical. So here I'm thinking of something like intrusion detection system, a firewall. It can also identify malicious activity on their network. So those fall under the category of technical controls. Then let's look at the functional type remediation that is needed. So if the last attack did them some real damage, okay, if the last attack did some real damage, um, what functional type remediation is needed? The last attack did some real damage. Remember, if we look at the three main categories of security controls, the functional types, we have preventive, detective, and corrective. Okay, preventive, detective, and corrective. So preventive before a breach, detective during a breach, and then corrective after a breach. Okay. So their main objective is to identify malicious activity on their network immediately. Okay. To identify malicious activity on their network immediately. So if they want to identify malicious activity, this means that they can select or we can implement detective controls. And then what control remediation is needed? Remember, it should be technical and detective. So we have setting up a firewall, which would be our best option among this option, all these options which we have. Installing an alarm or a barrier or a key card will not suffice in this scenario. Performing a security audit will also not suffice. Updating a policy will not apply. So that is our first scenario. Let's look at the second one. This is from the CEO. So as we look at this scenario, I want you to place the CEO under the security controls which we have. So does the CEO fall under managerial? Does the CEO fall under operational? Does the CEO fall under physical or technical security control types? So with that in mind, we are going to answer this question. So I can already place a CEO somewhere in those security controls. So our employees are visiting bad and secure websites way too often. But have we even stated that they shouldn't be doing this yet? Our employees are visiting bad and secure websites way too often. But have we even stated that they shouldn't be doing this yet? Okay, so if I just for a moment try to analyze this particular scenario, this is now from the CEO. So it seems these employees are visiting those bad sites and unsecure websites, and maybe maybe they have not yet stated or they have not made it in a policy so that the employees can understand that what they are doing is not what it is expected of them. So if we look at the security control remediation which is needed here, we have managerial, operational, physical, and technical. So if I want to place the CEO, should be somewhere uh, under managerial. But this one is quite um, different. So this case is just originating from the CEO. And then you have two parties here, the CEO and employees. Okay. So CEO, managerial control. So a manager would try to, let's say, enforce those policies. But who are these people who are accessing those unsecure websites? They are employees. So employees, they run day-to-day activities of a company. And employees fall under the operational security control. Okay. So if you want to address this with employees, we will choose operational security control. Then the functional type remediation that is needed here, we have compensating, corrective, detective. So compensating is just an alternative. Corrective, it will come in uh, after we have suffered a breach or an intrusion. Detective during an intrusion. Preventive before. Directive, it tries to enforce some tries to enforce some sort of behavior, and then deterrent. This tries to discourage any intrusion or any attack. So the case originating from the manager is that, have we even stated that they shouldn't be doing this yet? So is this going to be compensating, corrective, detective, deterrent, directive, and preventive? So if the case, if the CEO is the one in charge of enforcing a rule of behavior, so they should just fall under directive. So what is usually enforced? So that is what we are going to answer next. So policies, guidelines, and standards are usually enforced. So let's take a look at the control remediation. So the only control remediation which will suffice here is to update the policy. And then let's look at scenario 3 from the Chief Information Officer. So remember, the Chief Information Officer is in charge of all IT assets. So it appears that anyone could possibly walk into the server room. We need to evaluate and ensure only authorized people can enter. It appears that anyone could possibly walk into the server room. We need to evaluate and ensure only authorized people can enter. So security control remediation that is needed here. So is it managerial? Is it operational? Is it physical? Is it technical? So if anyone can possibly walk into the server room, and then it means we have an issue with our physical controls. So is either we try to and create some things like barriers, yeah, just some barriers, and I think we'll be sorted with this issue of anyone entering the server room. So let's select physical control here. Under functional type remediation that is needed. So if anyone could just possibly enter, walk into the server room, they need to only ensure that only authorized people, okay, to evaluate and ensure that only authorized people can enter. So detective would not apply. Deterrent will discourage. Okay, so discouraging does not mean it will if you just discourage, it means someone has the option of not following the particular warning. So the functional type remediation which would apply here. So we have a preventive, directive, deterrent, detective. So this one, which one would apply here? So I think this one is preventive. Should be preventive to deter. I would say that one will discourage. Yes, this one will just be preventive. And then what needs to be done to prevent this anyone from just walking into the server room? So you have installing alarm. That one will not deter. A key card will not also deter. Okay, let's see. So you have an alarm. We have a barrier. So if anyone can enter the server room, and we need to evaluate and ensure authorized people can enter. So um, in this case, a key card will apply. A key card will apply. So in such a case where you do not have this key card, they will evaluate. Okay, so you will not have the authorization, right? The authorization to enter into the server room. So with this last scenario, I believe a key card would apply. So we have the functional type. Let me possibly look at this. Okay. So yeah, we get this correct, all of this. So in a nutshell, this was the most challenging scenario 3 and also scenario 2. So if anyone can possibly walk into the server room, we need to look at our physical controls. So a keycard is also a physical control. If you do not have this keycard, you will not have access to that particular server room. And when we implement that keycard, we are trying to prevent, to just ensure that authorized people can enter. So this is it with our first performance-based question in the Security Plus, CompTIA Security Plus certification. So let's uh, see you on the other side when we look at more performance-based questions.